Julie?
Great, thank you so much. And I want to say a huge thanks to everyone for their excellent presentations. My first question is going to be to the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, as well as the Canadian Actors Equity Association. Thank you for being here. I'm very blessed in my riding to have a huge community of artists, creators, and those who work in the culture industry. You both have done a wonderful job of articulating their stress, their worries, their concerns, and I think some of the great ideas that are coming out in terms of how do we proceed. I want to just delve down a little bit into your ideas. Mr. Lewis, you talked a little bit about retraining workers. And I would like you to maybe elaborate a little bit on this, just because I think it's important for us to understand. We do appreciate, and I think the comment you made is that your industry is one of the first to go down. It'll be one of the last to come back. And I think we recognize it's going to be some time before we actually see the full sector come back. And so I think we're trying to explore certain ideas. So if you could talk a little bit more about what you meant about the retraining.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, we do have, and I live in the next riding to your riding. So, and we do have many Toronto members, but technology is changing rapidly in the industry, both in theater and motion picture and television. And the ability to stay on top of that is crucial. And the ability, because we're growing so exponentially, the industry is growing leaps and bounds in many sectors across the country. And we are dedicating tremendous resources for training and for retraining to maintain people in the industry. Because the concern is if our industry continues to stay shut down, many of our members have transferable skills to other industries. We have carpenters, we have painters, they can leave and go work in the construction industry. And so the concern is if this is prolonged and there isn't support, we may lose crucial people in the industry as we come out of it and as we look to grow. And we now are developing training programs to attract diverse communities into the industry as well. And so with the COVID shutdown, we've had to put those programs on hold, like with XOTO and the Toronto District School Board, and the City of Toronto is a great example of that. And unfortunately, we've had to put a hold on that.
Mr. Lewis, you also mentioned, and I thought it was a good proposal in terms of partnering with the provinces to bolster, I think, audiovisual sort of resources in order to create some good paying jobs in the future. If you could elaborate a little bit on that, and then I have a couple more questions.
Right. So we are seeing a fundamental change in viewing habits around the world. The growth of audiovisual streaming services is not going to change anytime soon. And we are close in proximity. We are a friendly place for large US studios to go. One of the things that was holding us back is we didn't have a lot of infrastructure in the industry. We did, but it wasn't enough. So you've seen in the last number of years, a large number of studios being built in Vancouver, in Toronto, and other locations. And so we're seeing that, and we need to invest more in that infrastructure to increase our capacity. There are many large feature films that bypass Canada. We get a lot of television, we get a lot of features. We don't get the real what we call the tentpole features in Canada. And there's things we can do to tweak the tax credits. Listen, there's some provinces, Quebec, Manitoba, Ontario, British Columbia have been very aggressive on tax credits. When tax credits were first introduced, when Paul Martin eliminated the shelters and brought in tax credits, it was always envisioned to be a 50-50 split between the federal government and the provinces. It's no longer a 50-50 split. And so I think we got to look at refining that because we have a capacity that we really can grow this industry. We're really at a tipping point where we can take this industry to another level.
Okay, and that's wonderful. And the insurance proposal that you had mentioned, David Weaver had also proposed that, and I know that has gone to the government. If you could do me a favor, Mr. Lewis, if you could please make sure that you submit that proposal to our committee as well, just formally afterwards. It just allows us to take that into consideration as we make recommendations.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I want to just give voice to, because I know this, I've heard this a lot. I know there's a lot of stress within the community around the CERB. I know that there was a lot of relief when it was extended for 8 weeks, and I do want to let you know that our Prime Minister has mentioned this, that there is an understanding that there are industries that's going to take longer to come back, and there's also an understanding that there are many workers who don't have access to EI, as well as we know that there's 3 million people without jobs. And so we do have to find some sort of ongoing mechanism to continue to support workers and to continue to support those without work in Canada. So I just want to make sure that I give voice to that. I do have, if I can, one quick question.
Very quick.
It is actually to Ms. Cobden from the Canadian Steel Producers Association. Ms. Cobden, I know you had mentioned about dumping practices and you were worried about that. My understanding is that one of our committee, I think Justice Committee, was considering C-17. There was a provision around steel dumping practices there. I want to know whether or not your association was consulted and what was the outcome of that, if you were.
Ms. Cobden.
Sorry. Thanks very much. Yes, in fact, we were concerned with the original proposal around that was related to the Special Import Measures Act that got included in a recent SEMA bill, a recent bill from Justice. We worked with our many members of Parliament, including our Steel Caucus and the chair of that caucus, and we were able to communicate our concerns. You know, essentially, I think it was just not thought through that the implications of this, in the sense that this was going to give a relief valve to imports and egregious imports, and we did not want that, obviously, nor did anybody else. So we're really happy that those provisions that were the worst for us got addressed. Obviously, the status of the bill is what it is, but the provisions themselves were removed that would have really caused a significant problem to the Canadian steel producers.